right, WSTU, it is 9:06, and that means it is time for the forum with our host, Pat Sacco.
Good morning, Mike.
Morning, Pat.
How are you?
I'm doing all right.
You had a crowd in here. You had
Blended morning show today.
Mr.
It's always
G.
busy. Yeah, Mr. G was in town.
He's such a nice guy. I
Good
hope
guy.
he's not listening.
No, he's not listening.
Good,
No.
because I don't like giving him flattery.
Yeah, you don't want to give him compliments to his face.
He's a good man. He really is. He's got that energy.
Yep.
You know that. I feel tired when I'm talking to him because he goes.
Yet I feel energized when I'm talking to you, so it only works.
Yeah, right. I'm not going to give you any money. Just go. Too bad. I'm sorry.
You promised me a check.
She always begs for a buck. I know. Come on. All right, we're going to play a game today. We're going to play What's New with You and then What's New with Me. I have Stephanie Myers here. And this time, your job is?
I am here representing the Department of Health in St. Lucie County and talking about, some of the initiatives that we've got in order to improve community health.
Excellent. And I will respond when you're done with that, talking about the new agency we just set up.
Well, I'm dying to hear
Oh,
this. Okay.
it's luscious.
Well, first I have to say, happy holidays to everybody. I'm wearing bells today, so I better, fess up to that.
She's
ahead of
jiggling
time.
her vest. She's a vest jiggler.
Oh, see the things you say, Pat. We are really working as a community to look at where are our health disparities and where are the areas that we can have the greatest impact. So we've been working on the community health improvement plan now for 3 years and focused in on some primary areas, including nutrition, getting people to move more, smoking cessation, okay, and those components. And part of that is also the breastfeeding movement that we've got
Getting
going
people
here.
to move more.
Move more activity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not going from house to house.
Well, it depends. If
Yeah.
that gets you to move more, then absolutely. Just increasing the number of steps that people are getting a day. Surgeon General recommends about 10,000 steps per day. And I'll tell you, when I started out at this, I was doing about 2,000 steps per day.
Ooh.
Too many hours in front of the computer. So I actually hit 12,000 steps yesterday. I was so proud. I finally broke down and got myself a fancy dancy Fitbit.
Okay.
So it tracks me, and it also reminds me every hour that I need to get up and move some.
Oh, boy. That's called a spouse.
Yes, but it's not one I have to listen to ad nauseum. I can just, it vibrates on my wrist and I'm good. I'm sorry, honey, if you're listening. And really getting us to be healthier. Even just 10,000 steps a day. And it doesn't have to be, all at once. Just parking your car further away from wherever you're going to and doing that walk in. Not printing all the stuff on that you need to print at once. Doing it one page at a time and then getting up to move and go get it. So little things like that have been shown to reduce the heart disease risk, reduce the chance of developing diabetes. So some pretty significant health changes. So we're working within that now to continue to develop our plan. We are going into the health needs assessment for the new year, where we need to go back and reevaluate where have we made an impact, and then what are we going to be focusing on for the next 3 years. And the important piece that we found is we have to get community involvement. It doesn't matter what the numbers show. If it's not an area of interest for people or something that they see in their daily lives, then we're not going to get the involvement that we need in order to really move those numbers. So as we're moving into the new year, we're going to be reaching out to community and residents and people who work here to say, where do you see the needs and what do you see as being able something that you could get on board with to try and address community health in St. Lucie.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's exciting.
Data speaks.
Yes, it truly does.
Data takes the argument out of a conversation. Pardon me.
It truly does. And I think, anecdotally, we all have different experiences. We all run into different people and work in different community neighborhoods and with different populations. So the data is really what's critical. The stories help build out what we're looking at, but I think it is truly the cumulative data that makes a difference.
Well, having parked myself for 20 years at a college, it took me that long.
Good researcher that you are, yes.
It took me that long to get my degree. No. We dealt in facts and we dealt in data, and it just irritates me to no end when somebody said, well, most people, excuse me, show it to me.
Do you have a randomly generated population and how big was your N?
Right. Did you use a correlation coefficient, or you had a small population? Use
what was your factor analysis? Oh, you're throwing me back to stats class.
No, validity and reliability. Reliability is correlation. Validity is, are you measuring what you want to measure? Let me tell you a quick story about that.
Please.
The scientist wanted to test jumping in spiders. So he put a spider on the desk and slapped the desk, and the spider jumped 3 feet. Well, he plucked one leg from the spider, hit it again. He jumped about 2 feet 7 inches. Plucked another leg, plucked another leg, Finally, he was down to one leg. And he plucked the leg and he slapped the table, and the spider didn't move. So he wrote down in his journal, removing all the legs from a spider leaves the spider deaf.
Yes, very little validity.
There's
At least
no
no
validity.
face validity there. Yes.
No, I'm always impressed with it. And again, that relates to my work
Mhm.
because somebody says, well, the doctor told me nothing about my Alzheimer's.
Oh.
And they're afraid and they're fearful. Once you start giving them information, you see that fear subsiding. Information takes the fear away from things.
And I think that's true for everything,
Absolutely.
but especially when there's health involvement going on.
Absolutely. And, and again, when we see these things that are happening, and sometimes there's a revolutionary thing going on right now with DNA with babies, and this guy who is manipulating their DNA to take some of their potential
Hereditary challenges away.
Yeah, right. And of course, the world is in an uproar.
Oh, yes.
And, this is, well, okay, if it's going to benefit mankind, let's go to a Star Trek kind of thing. Let's say a United Federation of Planets approach, that everybody's together and maybe focusing on things. That makes things better without that fighting in that opposition.
And I think the opposition that's there is really because nobody knows what the unintended consequences of things might be. And people who are fearful oftentimes are the people that are really pushing back.
Everybody needs to develop the attitude that I have. And it took me a long time to get here. Okay. And it's after I did regular work for people, like a job. Everything I do is an adventure.
There you go.
Everything could be a negative adventure, but mostly it's a positive adventure.
Also, negative adventures are also known as learning opportunities.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to me, I know everybody rolls their eyes at the ceiling when they say, no, there he goes again. No, and I believe that. And it's true for me. Plus, there are no problems in this world. There are only opportunities for solution. Now, if we dwelt on solutions to things, we'd get there much quicker than forming a committee to investigate the problem and doing. Enron is a good example.
Oh.
What did we do? We jumped right on that guy and put him in jail and all these things. Boom, boom, boom. The Japanese, if they had that same thing, you know what they would do?
No idea.
They would get everybody together and solve the problem. Mm-hmm. Then they would find the person who created the problem. You know what they would do to that person?
Do I want to know?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
They would retrain them.
Ah,
because they were a valuable employee for 10 years doing great work and they screwed up.
Yep.
Now, if you fire them or let them fall on a sword, you bring in a brand new person. Now you got to give them that 10 years of training.
To learn all those mistakes.
And then who's going to help them do it? Somebody else. And who's going to help them do that job while they're helping somebody train? I mean, it just changed it and it makes a mess of things.
What a concept. Teachable moments instead of quote unquote failures.
Absolutely.
Using those as learning opportunities.
That's a really good point. Assessing, would that person potentially continue to be an asset?
Exactly.
Now, if that's the case, fine. If not, you're gone.
Right.
But we don't take that step. We're always ready to fire the negative and the da-da-da-da-da-da.
I think there definitely is a tendency in the community. I think when you look at some of these best places to work that are deemed appropriate, they actually, I've seen them have a much greater focus on being able to teach their folks. Now, I don't know how they handle, negative outcomes, but it still is one of those places, and it makes it a better place to work.
Okay, and here's another Pat Sacco truism.
I got to write this one down, okay?
Internal marketing is just as important as external marketing. If you can't market your employees, if you can't give them something different than the person down the street's going to give them, you're in trouble.
They also need to know what your mission is and your vision. And again, that's part of that internal communication. Because if they're not on board, they don't understand where they're going as an organization, then they're going to have a hard time being passionate about what they do.
And they're focusing on just the outside thing, and they're treating their employees not very nicely.
Exactly.
And not giving them any recognition. I did marketing and admissions, and they gave me a quota. I said, "Whoa, wait! I'll tell you what. You want me to do X numbers of intakes? You want me to do it? I want you to do it. I want you to watch. I want to watch you, and whatever you achieve, that's going to be my level plus one." I had a friend that was told they had to do 10 admissions a week in a nursing home. I don't think anybody ever has done 10 in a
Mm-mm.
week, average 10 in a week.
Makes
So
you
I
wonder
would
what the
say if you
purpose
can
was.
do 3, I'll do 4.
There
Come
you
on, let's get realistic about this thing.
Yeah.
And then I would, if you
Good point.
exceeded, if you were working for me and you exceeded your goal, give you a 3-month goal.
Mhm.
Okay. I said, I will reward you 3 months while you're working, you've been past it. I would say, Stephanie, here's a 5-day cruise. Go.
Wow.
Now, when you come back, are you going to keep that same level of?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you will hopefully exceed that again and again. Yes.
There is a plastic surgeon in town. I won't mention his name.
Okay.
He's very well known in New York City, and they line up surgery for him every summer.
Okay.
I think for 2 weeks. They have a heavy surgery schedule. He takes his staff and flies them with him to
Mhm.
New York, puts them up in a hotel,
Hmm.
meals, Broadway shows, and they work like a dog during the daytime.
Wow.
Do you think they would ever quit him?
Nope. Not
Oh,
at all.
and spouses too.
Wow, that's
Do you
great.
think they would quit? No, I mean, he's making a bundle there and he's saying, I want to keep this staff. And wow, what a,
And
and
can you
you know,
imagine,
and the funny
teamwork
thing
there.
about it, that's all a write-off.
Oh.
Besides.
Said the
Besides.
businessman, yes.
Actually, see, and again, one of the complaints I have about medical school is they do not have a course called business administration.
That's correct.
These guys don't know how to run a business, and they have to learn and flub their way through. And if they learn some good techniques of staff reinforcement, they would keep their staff. Every time you change a staff
Mhm.
member in any organization, it amounts up to $20,000
Yeah.
in that business. The impact of that.
It's funny that you bring this up because my brother's actually in town visiting with us, my parents and I. And he was talking about how it took him a good 10 years he's a physician. So
Right.
to really figure out the ins and outs of all those components. And he laughs because he said, I was an English major. You'd think I'd be good with words, but I had to really figure out how people think and how to help them feel supported and successful before I could really make all of this stuff click.
I went to a neurologist, and I'm not going to mention his name, one of the best guys I know in this town, in this community. And I was in a room. He was going to come in and check me. And of course, there are no ceilings, there's just walls. I could hear his
Oh, yes.
counseling of several patients. And he came in the room. I said, Doc, I'd like to line up some doctors to follow you during the daytime and listen to how you speak to patients. They've got a lot to learn. And he's
Wow.
fabulous.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy you
And he
want to
truly
go
cares.
to.
And that comes through.
That's there you go,
That's
there
what
you go.
comes through.
There you go.
Absolutely.
And it's hard. Well, with Medicare reimbursements, now you got to crowd in more patients to see
Oh.
to make a decent wage and blah, 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 all that stuff. But still, there's that component. I have a cardiologist. When I walk in his door, he said, have you cruised lately?
He remembers you.
But
What a
he
concept.
does too. So
Yes.
you want to have a little banter.
A
there.
commonality. Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, 2 physicians that we, exchange. How are you? The other one has 7 kids and they go skiing.
Wow.
I said, did you take the herd list? Yeah, that kind of. So that warms you up and makes you feel good. And
Yeah.
because physicians need to make you feel good,
The-
even when you're not
connected
feeling
and
good.
cared
Yeah,
about.
Yeah,
especially when you're not feeling good.
right.
Well, tell me about this new thing you've got going on.
Okay, this new thing is called the Treasure Coast Health Coalition.
Ah, okay.
I've been concerned about. I'll get a call sometimes from an AL. Let's say, well, we want to do something on Medicare. Who do you know? Who can we ask? We've been looking around, or we want to do something with. We're in a community. We want to know what independent and assisted living is all about. Who do you ask? I got the best in the area of 9 different areas.
Okay.
Assisted living, independent living, assisted living, nursing home, specialized dementia care for that part of
Okay.
it, lab company, WellMed,
Ooh.
because they offer a Part C.
Okay.
I have an expert in
Now,
Medicare.
for those people out there who don't know what Part C
Part
is,
C is Medicare. Nobody knows Part C.
I know that's why I'm bringing it up.
It's Medicare Advantage programs.
Okay.
The company will say, okay, you join us. We're going to give you some extra benefits. And the government, you give us the money, and we'll manage their money for that person.
Ah, okay.
And it's all based on wellness.
Oh, that's fabulous. Oh,
So if
okay.
let's say I'm X and I go to doctor group A and
Mhm.
say, okay, I'm going to contract with you, and I'm going to give you X numbers of dollars per patient per month to manage those patients. I'll go to a rehab company, same thing. I'll go to a pharmacy, same thing. So I'm brokering out all those costs that I'm managing.
Got
If
it.
I keep my patient healthy, everybody wins as
The
well as
focus
me.
becomes not the illness, but
And
on the
it's
health.
yes, it's the health issue. It's wellness. Okay. But then we have Medicare Part A, Part B, and Part D.
Right.
In fact, now I have one of each of those. Now they combine a lecture.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to talk about the whole gamut of what you can do to help.
Wow.
So all of these agencies, what else do I have? I have something else too. Oh, a placement service.
For
To, let's say you're living in a home or an apartment, something, and you need to go to an independent living or assisted living. There are places you can call that I'm looking for. They will call some places. Those places call you, say, come on in, we'll talk to you. Well, this company brings you to their office, and they have a questionnaire they fill out.
okay.
And they analyze the questionnaire, and they've been to all of the major.
A dating service for
Just-
referrals.
Exactly. So then let's say you're coming and say, okay, Stephanie, I've identified 3 places that would be great for you. And I'm going to take you there and I'm going to tour
Wow.
you. You and
It's
I
like
are
a
going together.
concierge for
Exactly.
That's
See,
fabulous.
to me, it's people to people
yeah, and
rather
that's
than
what
phone to phone.
exactly.
I have that person on board.
Yeah, good.
And we have just, and an attorney. I have the best attorney in the
Wonderful.
2 counties who talks about wills and trusts and, planning and things
I'm
like
seeing
that.
a focus here on senior challenges and senior concerns.
Exactly. Now we
Ah.
offer this as a one-stop shop.
Awesome.
Here's a list, and I have rec cards. I'll give you one on the way out.
Please
I
do.
just picked them up the other day. It lists all the dimensions and some questions on the back, and it's free.
Oh,
We're not
fabulous.
charging anything for this.
Wonderful.
And I have to say, these people, I went to someone who's an expert in assisted living,
Mhm.
love her to death. And I said, would you be willing? She said, oh my God, yes, I'd love to do that. And everybody I've talked to come on this council or commission or whatever, just are thrilled that they were picked.
Well, we
And
talked
these
about
are the best of the best out there.
we talked about energy earlier. You draw people to you who have the same passion that you do.
Well,
for,
then I
for
just
these
sit
skills.
back and let them do their job.
Absolutely. That's called being a good manager.
A good manager does very little on the job.
Yes.
A good manager,
I'm
if you
fine
have
with-
the
no,
staff, if you have the staff,
well, yes,
and you delegate beautifully.
I have community partners that
Yeah.
make my job so much
Yeah,
easier.
right.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, if you took it all on your own,
Yeah.
you'd go nuts.
I'd be fried in a matter of minutes.
You'd need your father's services.
There you go.
He's a psychiatrist. But yeah, and there are a couple of good management styles, as you know. One is management by intimidation. I'm the boss. You do what I
Good old
say.
Machiavellian approach.
Yes. Or there's management by responsibilities.
Mhm.
I'm going to give you this responsibility. It's yours. You take it and run. I'm not going to interfere. Now, you screw up, you're not going to have a little come to Jesus
Well, and
talk.
if you have a question, you better come to me. and ask
Exactly.
too.
I will work with you. I will be your consultant, but it's yours. You own it. Don't put it together and come to me and say, "Can I do this, Daddy?" No,
Yeah.
that's your job.
Yep.
And then again, you throw a little reward system in there too.
Mhm. And it's amazing how much even just an atta girl will go quite a ways.
Oh, yeah.
It really does. Feeling appreciated.
The number one motivation in this country is not money. Money's number 3. I can't find out what number 2 is. I know money's 3. Number 1 is recognition of a job well done.
That
Little
doesn't
pat on the
surprise-
back.
Yeah, that's great.
I had a certified occupational therapy aide, a CODA,
Mhm.
working for us. And she wore a lab coat,
Mm-hmm.
and every time I would see her in the corner one day and she pulled this thing out of this little cardboard thing and handed it to a CNA, and CNA hugged her.
You're like, cardboard thing? What
Yeah.
what in the world?
And I went up to her and I said, what did you do? She said, I gave her what? I said, what is that? It said, you just got caught doing something right.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
And then later on at the shift change, I saw this CNA go up to another one and say, I got 3. How many did you get? It had no monetary value at all,
Exactly.
other than somebody recognized a job I did.
Yeah.
And oh my God, it's a beautiful moment.
I actually had a boss, and this was one of my growth and learning opportunities, who'd be like, well, that's your job. Why do you need to have appreciation for that? And I thought, ooh, we need to send you to a couple classes and hope that you can implement them. But yeah, because that appreciation goes a long way.
But there's the flip side to this too. Years ago, I told my son, when you get a job, just remember one thing: you can be on that job 40 years. You don't own that business. You don't own anything
That's right.
because you have a 2-week contract. You work 2 weeks, they pay you. Now you start all over again. You work 2 weeks. Well, he's working for the government now. About 6 months ago, he called me and said, you were right.
Yes, exactly.
All these things that are going on and everything, he said, I just do my job. They pay me. We start all over again.
Yep.
And it's a nice attitude.
Yeah.
A
There's a
secretary,
lot of stress
30 years.
associated with being in charge.
Well, why didn't you give me a $50,000 bonus when I retired? Because we paid you for the 2 weeks you worked. Just-
Exactly.
you know?
Before the 2 weeks prior to. Yeah, exactly.
so you have to set your perspectives on both sides, I guess. My expectations of being an employee and my expectations of being an employer.
Exactly. you and I have a tendency to go off on tangents.
I
So
know, we just did.
apologize for squirreling you there and taking you off the
All right,
tangent.
let's get back to
But I want to come back to
All right.
the organization that you guys are putting together. One of the things that the health department is looking at, and they're actually looking at it statewide, is how do we make sure that the seniors that we have are able to have quality of life? And there are oftentimes where people want to go out, but they get socially isolated because they don't have the mobility to get out there. Maybe they want to go to a park and go, just relax, but there are no paths there that they can get around on because they're no longer able to ambulate as well as they used to. Social isolation has been a big issue for a lot of our seniors. Well, being able to provide education to the other residents of the community will hopefully help those folks be able to have a better quality of life. And that's really what we're looking at, is how to become an age-friendly community, knowing that it's going to help everybody,
I live in a condominium environment, townhouses.
Mhm.
I have 132 of them. When somebody is sick, all of a sudden a list comes out for the next 2 weeks of dinners.
Love it.
Everybody says, I'll cook Thursday. I'll drop it off Friday. That kind of thing.
That community is
That reaching out.
critical.
We don't do it all the time for everybody, but when it's done, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes a guy's wife develops dementia or Alzheimer's, whatever, and he's befuddled. She cooked for 60 years. He didn't even know where the kitchen is.
Yep.
That's Henny Youngman said, my wife asked me to take her somewhere she hadn't been before, so I took her to the kitchen. And that's the way a lot of guys are.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I can maybe make a peanut butter jelly sandwich if you show me where the knife is. know?
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden they're lost. And now here comes a dinner for a couple of weeks till
Yeah.
the son can come down
Right.
and take care of them. That's the kind of community involvement we need. And it doesn't cost anything,
No,
but it pulls a neighborhood together.
and what's really important is that you have to have those relationships ahead of time, because if somebody's really struggling and they don't know where their next step is going to be, they aren't going to reach out.
No.
So having those ongoing relationships with the seniors in your neighborhood, in your world, wherever you happen to be, is going to help you be more aware of what they need.
Here's an idea. Let's say you take 3 communities, like the 3 areas of living, and you get one sharp person from each of those 3, and you have a little seminar, and you teach them how to be a coordinator.
There you go.
And if anybody is in need, they call the coordinator, just one. Then the coordinator contacts some people in the community saying, we need some dinners.
The good old phone tree.
But if you can
Yes.
get that one person that will
Yeah.
coordinate, because
You
one
take the
person knows
responsibility.
people,
Sure.
okay, or they might get some people who know more people. Again, it's, Reagan said something beautiful when he was president. He said a lot of things, but what he said, and it moved me, and my business is based on him, saying, don't ask your government, ask your neighbor.
There you go.
You want to get a program that'll last forever,
Yeah.
get a neighborhood program. If you want to get a short-term program, because federal money is seed money.
Yep.
It's not guaranteed. The school buys 50 buses from this grant. Well, when the grant dries up, they can't even afford the drivers for the
Yes.
buses
Or the repairs.
or the repairs.
or any of that. Yeah.
So it's a seeding, but people don't look at it that way.
Right.
And I think, people are good, have goodness. Years ago, during the Beatnik generation, there was this cute little cartoon that showed this big mob, and it said, "The mob speaks in one angry voice and eats with 1,000 little mouths." And if you can get down to those little mouths,
Yes.
you have change.
Yeah.
It
Because it does. It takes it at the one-to-one level.
takes a community,
Mm-hmm.
takes a village.
There you go. We're always back to that, aren't we? We have to work
Who
together.
started that, my dear?
Well, I believe there's a book that was written about raising a child. It takes a village. I think it was Hillary Clinton, wasn't it?
No, who brought it to COSA?
I don't know.
Stephanie brought it to COSA. That was the most. I can't get there. Whatever happens, there's always a reason I can't go. But I just love that time.
Yeah.
I love to see that interaction of here's a problem, and everybody's starting to offer solutions.
It continues to grow, because as we are growing with our membership, we're getting more and more stories about where there are gaps. And it's just fabulous to watch everybody pitch in and try and come up with solutions.
Yeah,
to
we're
be able to
talking
address
about
needs.
council social agencies who's been 30 years at least.
Yeah, 30 years.
And they
Almost
meet
35.
They meet once a month
Mhm.
at the
It's at the Treasure Health. which used
Treasure
to be
Health on
formerly
Midway
Treasure Coast
Road.
Hospice It's Dunn Road. It's actually 5000 Dunn Road.
The third Wednesday of every month at
Yep, 8:30.
8:30. Thank you. We
8:30,
changed it
10.
from 8 o'clock was too early.
We had lots of people who couldn't get there because they were dropping off their kids. So it was
Right,
just an
right.
easier way.
8:30. Right.
And we've got, I think, more than 50 members at this point, member organizations.
Oh, wow.
The thing that has actually really helped even more than that is our listserv. And we've got about 200 people on that listserv from these different organizations. And that allows us to communicate throughout the rest of the month on what are the challenges that we're facing. If we have a new resource that's been identified, we share that with the group. And so it's just a fabulous way to, it goes back to having that coordination.
Mhm.
Something comes up, have a family that ended up with bed bugs, and they didn't have the money to be able to treat it. They couldn't get new beds, any of that. Kicked it out to our listserv, and boom, within a matter of minutes, we had that family taken
And what
care
about a
of.
wheelchair? I saw recently
Oh,
somebody
yep.
was looking for a wheelchair. Bang, boom, slam.
Yep.
That's the coordination.
And that's the better use of our resources in the
Yeah.
community. If somebody's got a wheelchair that's sitting collecting dust and we've got somebody else who needs it, well, let's connect those two things up and address
Mhm.
the unmet need. So,
People, this is the Treasure Coast, and the Treasure Coast is unique. I think it's unique.
yeah, I do too.
Everybody say, well, this is being done on the West Coast. I don't think it's done exactly the same way as it's done here.
And we're always a work in progress. I think we still have organizations that are very much in their little silos. And this, we'll consider this an open invitation to invite them to come to the next COSA meeting and to check out our website. It's COSA, COSASLC.org.
SOC, St. Lucie County.
Yes.
That's COSA,
I'll tell-
SLC.org.
Yes, but I will tell you that we cover Treasure Coast. There's
Absolutely.
a lot
absolutely.
of cross.
Which includes Vero Beach.
Yes, it
They,
does.
people,
Okeechobee too.
they don't call that Treasure Coast, but they're still Treasure Coast. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right. We've exceeded our time. We're about 10 minutes past the time we should have done a commercial.
Imagine you and I keep talking.
Oh, my goodness. Hit it, Mike.
WSTU, we go back to the forum with your host, Pat Sacco.
Hey, I want to say thank you, Stephanie. She just reminded me of something that I never said. Good morning to my bingo ladies, and you know who you are, and a good morning to all of you, and you know what's going to happen, and we're all cool with it. Yes.
Do tell what's going to happen.
Well, we are shutting down
You are.
at that location. However, we've decided that we're going to meet once a month at another bingo location, and I'll go play bingo together
All right, good.
because that's another charity thing.
Yes,
So
it
we're
is.
still promoting that.
More importantly, it's a way to avoid social isolation that we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. We're just not
Staying
going to walk
connected.
away from anything. We're just going to go and divert it to somewhere else.
Good.
Cool.
Well, and I apologize for reminding you, but I'm like, hey, wait a minute. You didn't say hi to your bingo ladies this
I'll
morning.
tell you, boy, she's right on me all the time.
We've been doing this dance a long time, Pat.
But you keep me straight on that path. I mean,
Some days.
we both have a tendency to kind of veer off in the corner, but
People are probably listening to us going, where did they move off to now? What tangent are we on now?
well,
So,
we have this bantering thing that we go back and forth every time we talk. It's
Yes.
all these, because we're both very excited about all these things that are in our head, and we want to get them out.
we want to share them.
Want to share them with people.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we want people to come and respond.
Yes.
Stephanie's going to give you some phone numbers and some situations and some needs. And we want you to call her and say, I can give you a half hour someday during the week.
Absolutely.
I can come in and help. I can stand in that store and help them just a few minutes, an hour, whatever. You don't have to commit a day or a week or every Thursday night for 5 hours. You maybe commit something. You're going to go to the grocery store and time it with the 1 hour you're going to volunteer somewhere, and then get your stuff and go home.
Absolutely.
How about that?
I like that. I like
Let's
that
talk
idea very
about that.
much.
Give them information.
Well, we talked about age-friendly communities, and we talked about having people gather together. Well, if you have a neighbor, and I actually have a neighbor who can no longer drive, and she's a little wobbly. She's out there with her 4-post cane, and we just check in on her. The neighbors around her check in on her, see how things are going. And I decided, and I'd never asked her this before because she's a private lady. I'm going to ask her if she needs help getting groceries. So something simple like that. And it doesn't take a lot of time because if you're going to the
Did you
grocery
ask her?
anyway. No, I didn't see her yet
Okay.
this week. I usually see her when I'm out in the
That's a
evenings coming
program
home.
I've been trying to develop, and I just haven't been able to get it off the ground. It's called Neighbor Helping Neighbor.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, I have a website that I have the rights on. I haven't developed it yet, but the whole thing is to get a volunteer
Yep.
to call Millie on a Saturday morning
Mhm.
and say, what do you need? And make a grocery list, because I'm going to go to Publix anyway. And I get her stuff and I drop it off. She pays me, and that's it.
Yep.
And the same thing with meds. She might call and say, the doctor dropped the med off in Walgreens,
Mhm.
and I'm registered there for her. I go and pay for it, drop it off. She pays me. So they have to have funds
Sure.
to get their stuff.
Absolutely.
Now, what we've done, in a very simple thing, and took maybe 10 or 15 minutes out of my time, is that we've gotten the 2 essential things they need at home: their food and their medicine.
Yep.
And if you can find one person who will do that with this lady,
And this is commentary on our
not
culture
Stephanie,
today.
but one person.
Exactly. Well, is that, we're trying to do this educational component and offer avenues for this, but I would love to see everybody in their neighborhoods do this just for their neighbor without needing to be involved with anything. Just take care of people. We see a lot of that rallying when there's a hurricane coming through, or even just afterwards when people really rally. I'd like to see us do that on a daily basis.
Another thing I'd like to see, and I don't know about the legal ramifications of this are, but let's say when the policeman patrols an area,
Mhm.
I'd like to see a grandmother from that neighborhood riding with that cop.
Tell
And they
me.
say a gang of guys in the corner and have grandma get out there. And in 5 minutes, they'd all be going home.
Oh,
Because she'd
yes.
say, I'm going to call your mother. I'm going to call your grandmother. You get your butt home right now.
Yep.
Because the police is intimidating. If you see somebody in your community come out of the car with them and they're working with the cop,
Yep.
there must be something to this.
Yes. And we've found that really true, with all of the violence and things that have happened over the years, and things have gotten much better throughout the county, is, excuse me, that sense of community. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I got my butt into trouble when I was out in our neighborhood, my mom knew about it before I got home. It was
I
just
got hit by a neighbor
that-
one time coming home. Said, wait till your father gets home. How did you find out?
and having that level of accountability really makes a difference.
Yeah.
And
again, it solidifies things. There was this classic thing. There was some kind of a protest in one of the cities, and the mother found this kid, her son, went and grabbed him by the ear and pulled him out and said, get home. And she's hitting him. in the back as he's walking. And I told you not to be here. You get your butt home. Right.
I think I remember seeing that
And the
video.
mother
Actually,
took
yes.
him out. You know, the police.
And he caved too.
Right.
He caved fast.
The police probably would have had to wrestle him to the ground with 4 guys and cuff him in there.
Somebody would have gotten hurt.
But no, Mama said, get home.
I thought it was a great role model
Yeah.
for some of the other parents out there that,
but it
that
was
don't know
great
what to
sign
do.
of respect to him about his mother too.
Yes,
'Cause he
invested
could
in
have said,
his
flake
being
off, leave me
successful.
alone, you know. And
Or I give up on you. That's another.
yeah, right. Well, sometimes there has to be some tough love too.
Sure.
You know, if somebody's doing something, you can only coddle them so long. And you have to
Well,
let them.
One of the things that's really interesting in some of the research that's happened is something called adverse childhood experiences. And a study coming out of Ohio, and I don't want to get into the details but it's fascinating. They started looking at, people that are struggling with weight loss, people that are struggling with coping in everyday life. They may not be able to stay employed. They may have multiple interpersonal relationship challenges. They go back and they look at adverse childhood experiences and how that shaped not just their brains, but also their chemistry. So that some of the times when you're seeing a child who's having issues, it's because of the trauma that they've experienced previously. And for no fault of their own, that's the way that their brains have been developed.
They could have been abused by their families or bullied by.
One of the average
neighbors
childhood experiences out there that they count is divorce. If your parents get divorced, that counts as one in your life. Now, the thing that's interesting is that one solid, caring adult can help change that pathway.
Yeah.
And I think
big
that's
brother,
really,
big sister
you
kind
got
of
it.
connection.
Yeah. Can really help them stabilize when it comes to their neurotransmitters and their biochemistry. It can really help them be better off. But the interesting thing about the study is that people who don't have that and who have a high number of adverse childhood experiences, they tend to die 20 years earlier than their peers.
Yeah.
And that was just astounding. It makes sense.
Yeah, makes
Makes
sense.
sense.
Oh, the coalition, there are 2 things I forgot to tell you that I do
Yes, tell.
in the coalition. I'm not the expert, but I put it together. One is to train caregivers at home to do what you need to do at home to keep that distance short between you and your loved one.
Love it.
Activities together.
So helping to set their expectations
Right.
for what's realistic.
And the second thing I do is I do a lecture on senior abuse and senior bullying.
Do tell.
That's another area. The
People don't
areas
know that happens. They don't realize it.
Well, look at Mickey Rooney with his son. I mean, he was exploited financially. His son used to smack him.
Oh, geez.
It was a horrible situation. And that came out in public.
Yeah.
But how many times do you think that somebody's taking care of a loved one who has dementia and they're grabbing somebody, slapping, don't you do that?
Yeah.
Or yell and scream at them.
Frequently.
Or talk to them as if they weren't there and they're standing next to you telling them, well, she does this, she does that, she does that, and she's standing there.
Yeah.
That's abuse.
Yes, it is.
And
Yeah, it's
don't
remarkable.
you get up, you sit down. Well, that's bullying. I mean, when we stop and look at these behaviors, I gave a lecture at a community, a couple months ago.
Mhm.
And it was dinner and not a whole lot of people. And I talked about this interaction thing and engaging your loved one. And afterwards, this guy had a wife there who has Alzheimer's. And he came up to me and said, I got to tell you something. I thought, oh my God, what's he going to say? He said, I've been doing everything wrong.
Oh,
And I'm going to try what you're suggesting. He said, I sat there listening and everything you pointed out was what I was doing. And it was wrong. Wow.
Yeah, talk about being open to a message and being able, that's huge.
And talk about that feedback that I got from that.
Yes. Keep doing what you're doing because you changed a life that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was free.
Yeah.
I didn't have to say. See, I feel guilty as a professional. I was a therapist.
Because you love what you do.
I was doing beautiful work, but they paid me for that. It was nothing extraordinary.
Uh-huh.
Now that I don't get paid if I do something like that, I get a rush back to me. Nobody can say that was a good job. I don't even hear that.
Yeah.
I know what I feel.
Exactly.
And
Talk about that Attagirl.
Yeah,
that
and-
makes a difference. We have our own Attagirls.
but you
and
get that
attaboys.
a lot too on your
Yeah.
on your
Oh, I
own.
do. Yeah.
It's nice for somebody to recognize what you're doing, but that's not as important as what you feel about doing
Exactly.
it. And that's the other thing people need to realize. If you want to get a volunteer, I'm not sure I want to do this. Let me tell you something. Try it. And let's see the feedback you feel from that.
Yeah.
And let's see if you feel it's worth it. I can tell you whether it's worth it or not. But if you feel it, you're going to do it.
Some of the research that's out there says that people who are struggling from paycheck to paycheck, trying to make ends meet, that getting them engaged to help others is one of the best ways to help them feel better about who they are and to feel like there's hope in their world.
Mm.
And that makes perfect sense to me, because when we are able to help others, we're less likely to be picturing ourselves as with our hands out asking for assistance. We're there to provide assistance, and it really does change your whole perspective on the way that you live.
And then there's a pay it forward concept here too.
Absolutely.
If you get somebody who's in need and suddenly their need is being fulfilled and they sort of get back on their bootstraps a little bit, then you say, okay, it's your turn.
Yeah.
Look what it did to you. Now let's find somebody else that you can do that to.
You know, back in when the recession hit, I had people coming in who were like, I'm the lady who used to donate, and now my husband and I both lost our jobs, and we don't know where to go. We don't know where to turn. And being able to validate for them, if that's why these programs are here, is to help people like you. And I'm so sorry that you're having to deal with this. I wish I could tell you that you were alone in this. There's a lot of people out there, but those people also were the ones that came back and rallied and said, I still want to continue to help, because I now know the other side of the fence and what a difference it makes.
It's like that movie, who was it? Was a physician, and he went into the hospital to see what it was like to be a patient. William Hurt.
And I can't remember that name of the movie. Yeah.
The doctor, I think it was called.
Okay.
And his whole perception changed as he was sitting in that room, in that bed, and saw the things that were happening around him. And he thought, I've been part of that.
Yep.
You know, and he wanted to make some immediate changes.
Aha moments are amazing.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
They really do make a difference.
And again, I think it's one of the things I really like about the training for an administrator in a nursing home. They have to do a master's degree or a bachelor's degree, whatever, in healthcare administration.
Mhm.
And they have to do what's called an AIT, Administrator in Training.
Okay.
Yeah, AIT. And they used to be 9 months to a year. I don't know what it is now. But when they would go in, they would work as an administrator assistant, and they had to spend so many days or months in each of the jobs in that building.
Wonderful.
So they had to do maintenance, they had to do rehab, they had to do nursing, they had to do CNA, they had to do dietary.
Yep.
So they saw everything that was happening and worked with it by the time they became an
It's
administrator.
like undercover boss.
Yeah, at
kind of
least
thing.
they had a concept,
Yeah, exactly.
you know.
A much greater appreciation for.
So I really like that program. Now they don't do that with executive directors in assisted living. It's a weekend you go to and get certified.
Okay.
But you know, nonetheless.
At least they're making an effort to let people see things from others' perspectives.
But then when you get a sharp administrator in assisted living, they do that on their own.
Yes.
So I'm gonna
Because they
spend a
know the
week with you.
value
I'm
of being
gonna
able
come in and do that.
and building rapport
Yeah,
with the people that you're, overseeing is
Well,
critical.
I'm meeting with somebody this noon who's probably one of the best administrators in 3 counties in assisted living,
Really?
and happens to be the person who's on our coalition.
Ah.
But an extraordinary person.
Yeah.
And, I think, well, you're a model. You're a model for everything that needs to be done. Actually, there are 3 in this area. They're fabulous, really fabulous. The others are good.
Huh?
I won't say that they're good, but these are outstanding.
And that's going to be what changes the world for our seniors. And as we are moving into this age of having more people who are over 60 than we have kids who are under 20.
Well, remember the adage now, be kind to your children. They pick your nursing home.
Exactly. Oh, yes.
I've seen some reverses of that when finally people have come in, that the hate they have for their kids
I know.
and the hate that the kids have for the parents. I said, why is there hate? Come on. Yesterday, it can't happen anymore.
Right.
Whatever happened yesterday or the day before is gone. We're dealing with today and tomorrow.
And the present.
We can't deal.
It's a gift.
We can't deal with the past all the time.
Yeah. It's hard to let things go for a lot of people. It really
Like
is.
some people never left high school.
Mm-mm.
All their lives. The whole thing was the high school. Well, move on.
Well, you have something that we finally call age, which is another growth experience. You've got a lot of life lessons and life experience.
I got a lot of age, yes.
Yes, exactly. That have helped you be able to see things from a different perspective.
so.
And I really appreciate you being able to share some of that.
Well, it happened after I stopped working for a living.
Mhm.
I got a job because I was so consumed in the things I was doing. And I didn't realize that the toll it was taking on me emotionally
Mhm.
and my drive and doing this and doing that. And finally, when that all stopped and I got involved with other things, it's been such a peaceful thing that I
Yeah.
do. It's not a chore at all.
Yeah.
And people say to me, why do you do all that stuff? And there's a simple reason. I tell them, because it needs to be done. That's all.
Yep.
Period.
And
And-
you can make a difference with it.
And
So
if I
that's-
make a difference, it's because I'm doing it because I want to, not because I have to.
Yep.
And that's a big change.
And it really does, as I get older and start looking at, what do I want my legacy to be? Well, you're one of my role models for, look at the legacy that you're leaving behind and the lives that you've impacted. We are here but a blip in the grand scheme of the universe, and making a difference is
Well,
really...
if we can glean a few things from somebody, it makes our path a little shorter. The thing, and I always say this too, everybody plans financially for retirement, but very few, if any, people plan for emotionally for retirement. And it's a big, big step. You can be the chairman of the board of a multi-billion-dollar corporation and you retire. 2 weeks later, you wake up and you say, oh my God, I'm nothing.
Yeah.
It's gone. It's all gone.
You're sitting in a chair waiting for time to pass because you don't know what to do.
No, when that's the time to start the new adventures, to start the new life again.
That's right.
And,
And I think as a culture, we need to do a better job of teaching emotional health. We teach our kids to brush their teeth twice a day to save their teeth, but do we teach them how to do stress management? Do we teach them what their feelings are and how do you handle those emotions? Not as concentrated, and I think that's a gap, because then as they're moving into their older years, they're going to have that better knowledge of how to take care of themselves.
Well, the studies showing depression shortens your lifespan.
It really does.
And then, oh my God, I'm feeling sorry for myself. And a policeman will either buy a bar in Florida or swallow a bullet, because the whole world is gone and everything.
There's no hope. And
that's the time that cop ought to get into the neighborhood.
Exactly.
And work with kids.
Yep.
Kids are our future. Children are our future. We obviously have to cope with adults with problems, but the children are where we should focus so much of our efforts, because they are the next generation to take over this country.
And people who are comfortable with it and who have knowledge to share, let's get them involved with your Treasure Coast Health Coalition so that they can start teaching other people.
Well, look at certain schools that have evoked a dress code.
Yes, the uniforms. Yep.
And their academic achievements improve.
Yes.
Rather than wearing the sloppy pants that hang down to your knees and, the little revealing dresses and stuff like that. You wear your skirt and your blouse.
And it's no longer a distraction.
And now it's more of like, oh, I feel better. This is my school stuff.
Yeah.
And school is there for me to
It's a job.
Learn, maybe,
Teach them that that's a job and how to stay focused on the things that are going to be most successful.
And the more schools that get paid attention to by the community tend to achieve better.
Important.
Very important.
You and I are clearly all about volunteering today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ask your neighbor.
Yes.
Ask your neighbor.
Exactly.
Get your neighbor involved, because we can't do it alone.
No, we sure can't.
We burned through another show.
I know.
Stephanie,
that's
my
good.
God.
We shared a lot of good
Mike,
information.
we've got what, 2 minutes left?
No, yeah, 2 minutes.
See,
right,
my
well, good.
internal clock here.
Well, I do want to talk about one thing. I don't know if you were aware, but I think it's been a week and a half ago now. We had the Great American Smokeout, which was another initiative that we're working on, Tobacco-Free Florida. I haven't gotten the data back. I called Serena yesterday to find out, kind of what kind of feedback they'd gotten. But this is the quit season, if you've ever heard of the quit season, where people are gearing up for the new year. And this is the time where they say, what do I need to do differently to make my life better? So quitting smoking is really something that people focus in on. And I wanted to make sure that I touched on the Tobacco-Free Florida initiative that's out there. They've gotten funding from the tobacco companies, and they offer all kinds of avenues for people to learn how to quit.
Excellent.
People can quit use online services. They can do group stuff, and they can do one-on-one with a coach. And they offer all of the nicotine replacement strategies to be able to get them to quit. So really would like to encourage people to go to Tobacco-Free Florida, and look for quit your way.
Well, that's ironic, because I quit in December, but then in April I had open heart surgery, so I had to quit.
Forced.
No. And then when I quit. I mean, there was so many years of smoking.
It takes a lot of times typically to get people to quit.
And you
got to
quit. You got to work at it. You got to focus on it. If you were smoking cigarettes, you saw somebody lit up a cigarette and had a conversation. Sit down, have a cup of coffee, lit up a cigarette. It was all these triggers that do that. Yeah. And then you say, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And I got through another day.
Do you know Indian River State College has been smoke-free campus for a year?
Excellent.
This is the 1-year anniversary for them.
I'd like to see the whole country be a smoke-free country.
One step at a time.
You got it.
One step at a time. So,
well, Stephanie,
New Year.
Phone number for you.
Phone number, yes, is 772-462-2042. And that will get you there.
Thank you. Bye.